And so we are talking about how to recognize toxic people. We're talking about how to recognize toxic people. And this is a subject that is near and dear to me, as I was sharing earlier, because for some reason I seem to attract these kinds of people. So I think I have a little bit of expertise on how to recognize them, and maybe even how to deal with them, how to work around them, and how to be able to do that without feeling guilty, without allowing them to make you feel guilty, right? So what prompted this discussion for tonight was something that I posted earlier. And after this live, if you haven't seen it, go back and look at the last thing that I posted. And I posted something that said, toxic people do you dirty and then tell other people it was you. Toxic people do you dirty, they do you wrong, they do something to you that's unacceptable or something they shouldn't be doing. And then when it doesn't work out for them, when they don't get the response that they wanted, when they don't get the reaction or they can't get you to do what they want you to do, then they go tell other people that it was you and you were the problem. In other words, they play victim. They agitate the situation, they approach you incorrectly, and then when it doesn't work out, then they miraculously become the victim, right? Which is toxic. That's toxicity, right? And if we really just want to think about what toxicity is in a very simple term, I like to think of it as people who are needy. I put toxic and needy people kind of in the same category. And I like to think about it as people who just drain your energy. They're just draining your energy. They're robbing you of your peace. They're taking up your mental space. They're just taking from you in areas and spaces that you didn't give them permission to. You didn't allow them to. You didn't tell them that this was okay, and they're just toxic. They're just kind of taking over, right? So that's what we want to talk about, just to be clear. Toxic people are those people that just take up your space, you feel drained by them, and so on and so forth. So what I want to do is I want to kind of talk about some of the characteristics of, what a toxic person is, and see if you've dealt with this person, see if you're currently dealing with this person so you can recognize it, and then give you some ways to kind of work around, okay? And I have some notes here because I always like to write things down right before I go live, just so I can give you everything that I had in my spirit to give you. So we talked about toxic people, and a toxic person is someone that very simply just drains you. Like I said, they drain your energy from you. So after you're dealing with them, after your interactions with them, you feel drained. If you feel like, you were in a good place, you were happy and kind of upbeat, and when you get done talking with them, you kind of feel your shoulders are heavy, you kind of feel kind of drained, your mood is changed or something like that, that's the toxic person. That is a toxic interaction, if they are able to drain you and just really kind of make you feel down after you interacted with them. So that's a telltale sign, a very easy sign of a toxic person. And then if you are dreading your interaction with them, if you are dreading talking to them, you're dreading having to be on the phone with them, you're dreading having to even reply to a text message, you're dreading the fact that you have to meet with them, maybe for lunch or dinner, or maybe it's someone in the workplace, and you're dreading having to go into this meeting with them. If you are dreading this person and then you kind of start to avoid them altogether, you just don't show up, you stop replying, you stop calling, all of that is signs of a toxic person, right? So even if before you get ready to interact with them, you're already kind of playing it over, running it over in your mind, and you're dreading it, then that is a toxic person. And then once you start dreading them and you start avoiding them, then you start coming up with excuses. Hi, Chrysanthia, thank you for joining. You start coming up with excuses as to why you can't meet. You know you have to meet with this person, but you start coming up with an excuse. You know what, I'm busy today. Is there any way we can just cancel this meeting? You know what, I really don't have time today. Is there any way I can call you back tomorrow? And you just start coming up with all these excuses. If you have to come up with an excuse why you don't want to talk with someone or don't want to meet with someone, that's probably a toxic person. Again, if you can't just go into the interaction just normally, feeling good and good energy, then you are dealing with a toxic person and you are having toxic interactions, okay? If you feel anxious, if you are starting to feel anxious and feel anxiety, sometimes even feeling physically sick, you're starting to physically feel sick in your body having to deal with this person, that is definitely a toxic person. And I can definitely tell you that from personal experience. I had a supervisor several years ago that I had to have a one-on-one with every Monday morning. I had to have a one-on-one with the supervisor, right? So I couldn't get around it. I had to have this interaction. And for me, it used to start on Sunday nights. I used to start on Sunday night, 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, just already dreading, already feeling it, already just not wanting to, couldn't even really sleep good at night. Woke up the next morning as I'm getting dressed, I'm already dreading it. And it was making me sick because I couldn't even eat anything. I couldn't eat any breakfast. I couldn't eat anything. I started like shaking, palms sweating. I started feeling all those things because I had never felt that before. I didn't even know it was possible. But now I know that it's possible. It's possible to physically make yourself feel sick to where you don't even want to eat anything. Your palms are sweaty. You're breaking out in a sweat. All those things, you're feeling that just having to interact with that person. That's anxiety, and it's toxic. That means you're having a toxic interaction, and this is a toxic person. So if you're starting to feel any kind of anxiety or making yourself feel sick, then that's definitely toxic. And then if after you have met with this person, you feel like you need to unwind, you feel like, wow, that was a lot. I've been on the phone with this person for 30 minutes or an hour or however long, and I just feel like I need some fresh air. That was my situation. I've been on the phone with this person for just 45 minutes, and I need to just get out the house. No matter how much work I have to do, no matter what I have going on, I have got to stop. I need to go out, and I would just go drive around in my car. I had nowhere to go, but I would just go get in my car and go drive around because that person, it just drains me, kind of just sucked the life out of me. It was such an unpleasant experience that I had to just go and unwind. So if you feel like you need to unwind whenever you talk with this person, or if you feel like after you get off the phone with this person, or after you interact with this person, you need to go talk to somebody else about that person, right? You just got off the phone with this person, you got to call somebody else. And let me tell you about my conversation with Michelle. She did it again. She was just, talking too much and taking over and all of those things, right? All of that is toxic. All of that is toxic. All of it is unhealthy. And all of it, you have the power and the right to stop it and to say no, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. Thank you, Chrisanthi. I appreciate you as well. Thank you for joining. Okay, so we've talked about being drained, talked about avoiding them, needing to unwind. They're causing you anxiety. You're physically becoming sick, right? A few more things are when you get on the phone with them, you just minimize your issues. You minimize what you have going on. When you're talking on the phone with this person, you want your interactions to be short, sweet, to the point. You want it to be over with as soon as possible. And you don't even tell them what's going on with you. You could have just bought a house. You could have just graduated and got your PhD. You could have just gotten a promotion at work, whatever it is. You don't even share what's going on with you. And you minimize anything you may have going on because you know as soon as you talk to them, they're going to take over the conversation. They're going to insert themselves into it, and they're going to make it about them. Have you ever had somebody ask you a question, and as soon as you start to answer the question, they just take over? And it's like, really, you asked me the question, but you gave the answer, right? So really, you just asked because you wanted to answer. You really don't even want to hear what I have to say. All of that is toxic. If you can't even, get out what you want to talk about, if it's not a balanced conversation to where I share and then you share, then it's toxic. That person is overbearing, perhaps, dominating the conversation. All of it is toxic. Okay? So if you feel like you need to minimize yourself around this person because you don't want the repercussions, that is a telltale sign of a toxic interaction. Okay? And then the obvious. If you can't stop thinking about how toxic this person is, if this person is toxic and you just can't stop thinking about, oh my gosh, I got to talk to Michelle, or I got to talk to Chris, or whoever it is, I got to talk to them, and they're just so toxic. I just don't like talking to this person. You can't even get it off your mind. You go to bed at night, you wake up in the morning, you're talking about it to other people, and you can't get this toxic person off of your mind, then that's a clear indicator that it's toxic, right? And then lastly, they start manipulating. A toxic person is very manipulative. A toxic person is very manipulative. At the beginning of this live, I talked about toxic people really are just energy drainers. And that's one of their number one things is they have to drain someone's energy. It's like they have to feed off of other people, right? And then whenever you don't give them the time and energy and attention that they want and what they seek and what they feel like they deserve, then they'll start to become manipulative. They'll start to become manipulative. They'll start to play that victim role. So they may say something like, I'm disappointed in you. I'm disappointed in you. I'm disappointed in you that you didn't return my phone call. I really had something to talk with you about, and you didn't call me back last night, and I really needed to talk. So they try to make you feel guilty that you didn't call them back. They're trying to make you feel guilty that they couldn't get the time and attention from you that they wanted, right? Or they may send you a message and say, I haven't heard from you in a few days. I'm worried about you. At least text me and let me know you're okay. If they're doing things like that and texting you and sending you messages just to try to get a reaction from you, just to try to get a response from you, then all of it is toxic. All of it is a form of manipulation. They're trying to manipulate you to feel like, you know, you did something to them. I'm the victim. You're doing me wrong. Or I'm worried about you. Let me know you're okay. All of that is a form of manipulation, and it all falls under toxicity. Okay? So now that we're clear on what a toxic person is, draining, manipulative, you know, play the victim role, they're causing you anxiety, all of those things, let's talk about some of the ways that we can work around, some of the things that we can do. Hi, Rochelle. Thanks for joining. So let's talk about some of the things that maybe we can do to kind of work around that. So we've identified them as being toxic, and I think we can all agree that that's unhealthy. It's unhealthy behavior. It's unhealthy for you to be in. It's unhealthy for you to stay in that space, and it is okay for you to stop it. It's okay for you to set a boundary. It's okay for you to tell them no, and you can do that without them making you feel guilty. Don't allow them to make you feel guilty because you are setting a boundary and you're telling them this is unacceptable, because that's the number one thing that they're going to do, right? They're going to play victim, and they're going to try to make you feel guilty. So you want to start setting boundaries. And one of the things that you can do is you can just communicate to them the frequency that you want to speak with them, right? Because this toxic, needy person is going to want all your time and attention. You know, they're going to talk to you all the time. They're going to want to text you all the time and all of that. You can just set a frequency. You can say, you know, I want to communicate with you and I want to keep in contact with you, but I think maybe once a month is going to work for me. Let's just talk once a month. Okay? And say it firmly, say it boldly, and don't let them talk you out of it, and don't let them cause you to backtrack, and don't let them water you down. Don't let them make you feel guilty. You know, I'm communicating that I want to have a relationship with you. I want to hear from you. I want to stay in contact with you, but I want to do it about once a month or whatever. For you, it may be once every 2 weeks, and maybe once every 2 or 3 months. But I recommend that you stay up front. What is the frequency that you want to interact with this person? And then stay firm with that. Okay? And then another thing that you can do whenever you're talking with someone is you can maybe just up front let them know how much time you have to give to a particular conversation, right? So say, for instance, you have somebody that likes to just randomly call you on the phone. Okay? I dealt with that not too long ago. Just randomly calling me in the middle of the day and kind of holding me hostage on the phone, talking about all these things you want to talk about without even asking me, did I have time? Was I available? You know, didn't ask me any of that. Just started talking about all of their stuff, right? And so what I started doing was I started telling them from the beginning, yes, I can talk to you right now, but I only have 10 minutes to talk at this time. So I just started off right away letting them know I only have 10 minutes to give you. And I didn't give an explanation as to why. I didn't try to come up with a reason. I didn't say I can only talk for 10 minutes because I have this to do, right? Because regardless, I'm busy. I'm always busy. Even if I'm just sitting at home on my couch playing a game on my phone, I'm busy, right? And so when you're calling me, you're wanting me to stop from what I'm doing to talk to you. And I get to determine and I get to decide whether or not I want to do that and how long I want to do that. Because again, we're talking about toxic people. I'm not talking about your friend. I'm not talking about, you know, your family or people who you want to talk to. We're talking about toxic people. These people that are draining you, that's taking from you. Remember, you want to avoid them. They make you feel bad once you get off the phone with them. This is who we're talking about. So I get to determine if and when I want to talk to you and for how long. So with this particular person I had to deal with not too long ago, I just had to say, I can talk right now, but I only have about 10 minutes. And I let them talk and talk. And then when we got down to about the last 2 minutes, I just kind of reminded them and said, is there anything else that you need from me? Is there anything else we need to talk about right now? Because I only have about 2 minutes left. And I just reminded them. And you don't have to say it in a mean way. You don't have to be nasty about it. You don't have to raise your voice. You can actually be very pleasant because you already know that in 10 minutes you're getting off the phone. So you don't have to be mean about it or nasty about it or anything like that. You just have to state it firmly, and then just state it up front, right? And it may feel a little bit uncomfortable for you at first because a lot of people, I talk to a lot of people who over and over and over say, I don't know how to set a boundary. I don't know how to tell people no, right? The next one that I have on my list is telling people no without an explanation. People don't know how to do that because people make them feel guilty. They don't want to feel bad. But again, your peace comes first. You being healthy comes first. You having peace of mind, all those things come first. And if someone is disturbing that and they're toxic, you have the right to stop it, right? So it may take a little bit of practice. You're building up your boundary muscles, if you will. It's going to take a little bit of time. I had to get used to it. It's been years for me, so now I can do it with no problem. But at first, it was an issue for me. I felt bad, right? So you're setting a boundary. You're letting people know how often you want to talk to them, how long you want to talk to them. And then you can just say it very nicely and say it without a problem because ultimately you know that this is what you're setting up for yourself, okay? And then you can also let them know your comfort level because sometimes you have people that want to talk to you and they like to gossip. They just stay talking about negative things. They're just always in a negative space. Can never find the positive in anything, right? And that's the main reason why they drain you. And so, they may want to call you and talk about somebody, and you may say, I know you may have issues with, Tracy, and I don't mind, listening to you because I know you may want to kind of vent about that. But when it gets to the point where you start talking negatively about her, then I'm going to have to discontinue the conversation. And again, just state up front, this is my comfort level. I'm okay talking about this topic until it gets to this point, right? So when you state that, and then when they cross that boundary, you can just remind them, remember, as I mentioned before, Tracy is my friend, and I'm not comfortable hearing you speak with her in this manner, so I'm going to have to ask that you not do that. And if you continue, I'm just not going to be the person that you're going to be able to talk to about this. You're going to have to find somebody else to talk with, about this particular topic, right? So just being clear, setting those boundaries and setting those things up front can really, really, really save you from, having to deal with toxic people or at least dealing with them so frequently, okay? And then another way you can kind of work around some of this toxic energy is to just stop responding so frequently to them. Just stop being so available. Let those text messages sit there for a little bit. When they call you, let the phone go to voicemail. Stop replying to the email so quickly. When I first started along my journey of setting boundaries, I picked 4 hours. That was the number that I picked for myself. And so every single time somebody, particularly somebody that was toxic, reached out to me, I let it sit for 4 hours. So if they sent me a text message at 10:30, I didn't respond before 2:30. If they sent me something at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I purposely let it sit until 8 o'clock. And why do I say do that? I'm saying do that because they're toxic and they're going to drain you. You already know that. And then also, you have to help people to understand you're not always going to be available and you're not always going to be available immediately. And if you're always the first person to respond in the group chat, if you're always the person to always write them back in 5 or 10 minutes, who's going to be the person that they come to all the time? Who are they going to reach out to first? It's going to be you, right? So again, start letting things sit there. Stop replying right away. Stop being so quick to respond all the time to these toxic people, and eventually they'll start to get the message. It's going to take some time, particularly if you've been allowing certain behavior and you've been allowing certain things, and now you're trying to correct it. They're not going to like it, right? But you have to set the boundary and then just kind of let them process it. Okay? Again, they're going to try to make you feel bad. You're being mean to me. Why are you ignoring me? I'm disappointed in you. All that manipulation that we talked about, they're going to do all of that. You just let them process that. You just stay firm in, here are the boundaries that I'm setting up for my interactions and my relationship with you. Okay? And so then also, you want to stop allowing them to continuously come back to you over and over and over with the same thing when they haven't heeded the advice that you gave them at first. So you have this person, again, that likes to maybe gossip, likes to vent, likes to just talk about things in a negative space. They keep coming back to you kind of, whining about things. And you gave them a fix and they don't implement it, but they like to just keep coming back to you. That's toxic. It's toxic, right? And so you want to just say to them, I'm not exactly sure if you realize it or not, but this is the third time you have come to me about this. And the last time that we talked, I gave you some feedback and I gave you some advice. Did you do any of that? And they're probably going to just maybe give an excuse. Oh, I tried to, or I forgot, or no, I didn't. And they're just going to try to keep going. And you're going to say, no, let me stop you right there. Because the last time that we talked, I gave you some feedback that should have been helpful. And, you haven't implemented it. But you want to come back and talk with me, I'm not going to be able to let you come back and talk to me until you've implemented that advice. And then again, just stop right there. And don't let them keep coming back. Don't let them cause you to backtrack, and don't let them water you down. Okay? So all of these are ways that you can deal with a toxic person. And like I said, again, it's going to take a little bit of time because you're building up your boundary muscles, I like to call them, right? It's going to take a little bit of time for you to get used to it, maybe feel confident enough to firmly just state it, and just state it very calmly and very peacefully. No need for any malice, no need to, be mean or anything like that. Just state it because you're setting up what the parameters of this relationship is going to be. And of course, if after all of this, it doesn't work, then you may have to go to the ultimate, which is you may have to just discontinue the relationship. You may have to just discontinue the relationship, and that's fine too. That's fine too, because you deserve to be in peace. You deserve to have peaceful interactions. You deserve to not be anxious. You deserve to walk around and, be able to be okay without having all this toxicity. And I believe in the beginning, I talked about, what I've experienced over the past year. And I'm not exactly sure what was in the water or what was going on, or maybe it's because, the obvious situation that we're in now, globally, but I had to block 6 people. I've had to block 6 people in the last 6 years because they just would not respect my boundary. And I did it, thought about it, let it kind of marinate overnight, so it wasn't an impulsive move, but I blocked them, and I've been much more peaceful because I was going through some of these things I've experienced. Dreading getting the text message, dreading getting the phone call, trying to force myself to reply back to this person when I'm really not interested and I really have nothing to say. Or allowing this person to come back to me over and over and over, and I've already given you advice. But instead of taking my advice, you rather call me on the phone and hold me hostage, because that's what it is, holding me hostage on the phone in this particular space, and you can just implement the information that I gave you. And in one particular instance, I'm a career coach. If some of you don't know that, this was a person that I had restructured this person's resume because she, as she said, had just had it with her job. And instead of finishing the resume that I had worked on for her, she kept calling me to vent about her job. And so the amount of time that she was calling me on the phone to vent about her job was the same amount of time she could have taken to fix her resume that I had started for her to go ahead and apply for another one to get out. But I've come to the conclusion that some people don't want help. Some people don't want help. They want to stay in that space. They want to stay miserable, right? That's the reason why they just keep coming back to you over and over and over, but you don't let them drag you down. You don't allow people to keep you and hold you hostage in a space. Like I said, you deserve to be peaceful, and you can set up your interactions with people how you want to interact with them, okay? So that has been this week's edition of How to Recognize Toxic People. Hopefully this was helpful. And if you have a toxic person in your life, I hope you were able to implement some of these things right away to start improving those relationships. And then ultimately, if they don't change, if they don't respect your boundaries, you may have to discontinue them, and it is okay. It is okay to do so. Okay? So thank you so much, and share this with someone if you think it will be helpful with someone. Share it, and certainly, in the comments, I'd love to hear from you if, this was helpful. And of course, you can always DM me if you would like. So have a great rest of the evening. Don't forget to love on yourself. Don't forget to take a moment to think about what you're grateful for. And I will see you back again next week. Bye-bye.